There are some things that I've noticed, and it's one of the things I find problematic about AA being an institution, is that some of its ideas have spilled over into mainstream thinking and mainstream thought. And that's one of the, like I said before in another earlier video, I don't remember which one, but there's actually consequences to having faith. People will say, well, it's my faith or my personal faith or something like that. But there's consequences to that because the way that people with this faith behave, as we've seen time and time again in the meetings, and as we've seen time and time again with the blatant disregard for people's well-being in AA meetings by allowing predators and allowing crooked people and allowing all kinds of horrible things to go on unchecked because you got to do it in the name of the AA community, for example. We see the downside of that, but part of the thing that is also disconcerting, I guess, I was trying to figure out a term for this, is certain things that have come about as a result of AA becoming an institution due to Marty Mann cozying up to certain politicians a long time ago and a certain senator named Hughes, is that some of the things they teach in there has spilled over into the mainstream line of thought. I mean, for example, and that's not going to be the topic of this video, but there was one of those morning disc jockeys on the rock radio station that I listened to. There's not a good alternative station for some reason that plays the good old 90s stuff, but it's the classic rock station that plays all the hits that we've all heard a million times before from a particular generation. It was a hit in the late 60s to the mid 90s. It'll probably get played on the program, but they have their morning disc jockeys who do their wacky, zany humor, as it used to be called. They don't refer to it like that anymore, like they did in the 1980s. I talked about that in another video, but I don't want to get too far off topic. But they were talking about, I forgot which celebrity it was, that had overcome their drug problem and, seemed to be doing well for a period of time. I don't remember who it was. I wasn't paying attention. It was background noise while I was driving. But casually, in a very offhanded way, one of the morning disc jockeys just said, well, there'll always be a drug addict. Just because they're not using, they're still always going to be a drug addict, but it's good for them for overcoming it. And I thought, they said that without any thought whatsoever behind it. They said that without any careful consideration behind it. They just quoted it like it was a fact. They're always going to be a drug addict no matter what. The idea that once you have a drinking problem, or once you're a problem drinker, well, the word alcoholic itself is very problematic, and I'd like to see it done away with, but that's, I'm not going to get into all of that here on terminology or whatever, but that's just accepted as fact. People just accept that as fact, and if you've ever had a problem with alcohol or drugs, you're always going to have that problem, even if you're not doing it, even if you haven't done it in 20 fucking years. Which was also very detrimental to me for a very long time, both in AA and after leaving AA. Today, I don't believe that I'm defined by what I used to do. I'm not defined by my heavy drinking. I'm not defined by the fact that I had a severe addiction to alcohol that landed me some pretty horrifying consequences and caused me some very horrifying experiences. That still doesn't define me as a person today. I don't agree with that labeling of yourself as that, but that's not actually the point of this particular video, but it was laying the groundwork for telling you that there are certain, I guess you could say, ideas that have spilled over into where everybody kind of accepts it as a given when it's actually not. And, I would lay that at the blame of not only just pop culture itself reinforcing these images, but AA being the institution that it is. But today I'm not actually talking about terms and labels. I'm not going to do a Wittgenstein, the philosopher that believed he wrote the book that would end all philosophy books. But I am going to talk about one type of thing that I've noticed more and more just in everyday, ordinary living. Myself, I'm not really included in a lot of it because I'm kind of a loner in real life. I'm not really a very, very social person. I'm very, very quiet among people until I really get to know them really, really well. So some of the people who have been coworkers of mine, if they could ever stumble across these videos, they'd probably be shocked because they probably wouldn't think I say more than a couple of sentences, here and there in an offhand way, just to kind of get along in real life. But it's something called toxic positivity, and what what brought this about actually was a lighthearted discussion online about this attitude to be grateful, this attitude that, you know, you're always supposed to be grateful no matter what's going on. It's not just confined to AA itself, although I could do a whole entire video about all those gratitude meetings where you have these people that are very, very angry and almost commanding us to be grateful about things. You know, I mean, talk about ironic with a capital I in one of those meetings. Very ironic, beyond even the Alanis Morissette song. There was this guy who just looked like he was red-faced with rage because a couple of people had talked about what a hard time they were having in life, and he was like, you know, I can't stand all this complaining. I just can't stand it, you know. Where's the fucking gratitude? You know, why don't any of you people have any gratitude? You know, when I had my first sponsor, I wasn't allowed to complain, and I wasn't allowed to do that. And I thought, but that's what you're doing right now. You're actually complaining. You're actually in a rage about what other people are doing, which your own stupid program will tell you not to do. You're supposed to, you know, keep your side of the street clean and own your part in it and all that other phony horse shit. But toxic positivity in general is kind of like that. The people are almost vile and ugly and cruel to you in a way when they're telling you that you have to be grateful. You know, God damn it, get grateful. You know, stop complaining. Don't tell me you had a hard fucking day. Tell me you're grateful or else you don't deserve to live. You know, that kind of an attitude. I didn't know there was a term for that. I didn't know there was a term for toxic positivity, which, believe it or not, now, of course, I'm only going by one article here, and I can post a link to it, which one article, I don't remember where it comes from, the line, one swallow does not a summer make, but there are tons of articles about it. This one I picked because it's a very good synopsis, I think, overall about it. But I said in a lot of meetings like that where if somebody was having a hard time or somebody was miserable or somebody was just, even if you want people to look on the bright side of things, you would normally say something to them like, look, you know, I know it's terrible. I know what you're going through is tough. You lost your job. You don't know where you're going to stay. But you know what? You got people here like myself who care about you. We're going to try to, you know, get you through this thing. I lost my job once, and I was really upset and depressed, and I managed to be all right on the other side of it. Or, you know, well, there's support here or anything like that. That's never the angle of these people that command you to be grateful in the name of the AA program. You know, it's more or less like, you know, I don't care how miserable you are. I don't care what you're going through. You know, I don't care how much you suffer. I want you to suffer some more, but you better be grateful. You know, it's like that. But this article kind of touches upon the idea that there's a difference in being optimistic and in toxic positivity. Now, myself, I'm not much of an optimist. I mean, I don't remember if someone else helped me coin the term or not, but I refer to myself oftentimes, and I'm fairly serious when I say this, as a cheery pessimist. I'm one of these people that are pretty pessimistic and cynical about the state of the world and everything in it, and in general. But you know, I'm not one of these people that's in a depressive state as a result of it. I'm not one of these people that are really, really down as a result of it, and I'm not minimizing people's depression. Let me get that out of the way right now. I'm not minimizing people's depression. I'm not minimizing people's real struggles. There are people online that I've seen that proudly wear the badge of pessimist is what I'm talking about here. I want to clarify that because depression is real. Clinical depression or any of that kind of stuff is a very real thing. It's not something you can just snap out of by writing a fucking gratitude list. It's not something that you can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get out of that bed and just not have the depression anymore. No, it's a real fucking serious thing. But I have seen people online that proudly wear this badge of I'm a pessimist, and you can almost tell they're trying a little bit too hard, you know. Like they'll type something about, well, I was tempted to enjoy a sunrise this morning, but then I realized life is all futile and useless anyway, and I reminded myself that we're all just biological meat puppets, like Thomas Ligotti says in his book. You know, by the way, Thomas Ligotti is an excellent writer, but he is very, very, very pessimistic. But he does make that term in one of his books. Kind of like, you remember, well, maybe a lot of people don't watch as much TV as I do, but in the series True Detective, the very first season, the character played by Matthew McConaughey, Russ Cole, the way he talked, there were a lot of these people online that were trying to emulate that character, even though they weren't necessarily depressed about everything. They were using it as bragging rights. They were saying, I'm a pessimist because I'm smarter than everybody else, So that was my point when I said I'm a cheery pessimist. I'm one of these people that I'm pretty cheerful in general. Well, I'm not positive. I'm not an optimist. I don't think that the best things are going to happen or anything like that. But I'm not necessarily one of these people that's not fun to be around at a party. Well, I'm actually quiet at parties, so that's a moot point. But anyway, there is a difference between toxic positivity and optimism. There's optimism, and then there's, toxic positivity. And there is, just like the AA meetings with their weird, phony fucking gratitude and all that other stuff. There was, like someone pointed out in an online group, which I thought was funny, because I used to hear old timers say that, you better get an attitude of gratitude. You better get an attitude of gratitude or you'll be drunk, Which is really funny because AA doesn't offer, and I want to throw that in before I dive in here, AA doesn't, AA talks about morals, but those aren't morals. Those are commands. You're not allowed to get angry because AA God might punish you with drunkenness. You're not allowed to be ungrateful because AA God might punish you with drunkenness. You're not allowed to feel normal human emotions because AA God might rain down drunkenness on you. You're not really being moral in a situation like that. You're following a dictator who's going to punish you if you don't do it. So it's extortion, really. Be happy or I'll force you into a living hell that you can't even begin to conceive of. Be grateful and do the steps or I will torment you. That's not really, you can't even call that standing on any kind of fucking moral high ground there because you're not trying to help other people, which AA doesn't do, but if you're trying to help somebody and you're only doing it because, well, if I don't do this, I might get drunk again, then you're not sincere, and you're just a coward who is obeying the orders of a tyrant, No different than sitting in a concentration camp and saying, well, I'm grateful today because the Nazi commandant did not kill me. He killed a bunch of other people and he put another bunch of people in gas chambers. But you know what? I'm not going to let that bother me because if I'm happy, he won't do it to me. That's literally the type of fucking thing you're calling moral. It pisses me off whenever they talk about morals in AA meetings, considering the type of scoundrels that you see in there anyway. But it says toxic positivity. I'll post a link to this in the video. Toxic positivity is the belief that no matter how dire or difficult a situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset. While there are benefits to being optimistic and engaging in a type of positive thinking, toxic positivity rejects all difficult emotions in favor of a cheerful and often falsely positive facade. Nailed it. I don't know who wrote this. Well, I can't pronounce their name, but they're right. I'm agreeing with them. Having a positive outlook on life can be good for your mental well-being. The problem is that life isn't always positive. We all have painful emotions and experiences. Those emotions, while often unpleasant, need to be felt, and they need to be dealt with openly and honestly to achieve acceptance and a greater psychological health. And then he's got citations for his sources here, which, like I said, I could pull up dozens of articles like this. I just felt this one hit the bullet points that I kind of want to make for this video. I don't have time for an 8-hour dissertation. For one thing, I would get tired of hearing myself talk. And for another thing, I don't think nobody would want to watch it anyway. I think you can get the general idea. Toxic positivity takes positive thinking to an overgeneralized extreme. This attitude doesn't just stress the importance of optimism, it's minimizing and denying any trace of human emotions not strictly happy or positive, which is unrealistic, by the way. They're always talking about life on life terms in the AA meeting, but that's not really life on life's terms. If you're just sitting in meetings all the time, angry at the whole entire fucking world for not being grateful enough, and more or less blaming all your problems on you being a shitty person that just didn't pray hard enough to AA God, that's not really life on life's terms. Life on life's terms is a myriad plethora of emotions and feelings. I've still got sinus problems. Do you know we went from snow to almost 50-something degrees here? So yeah, my sinuses took a beating again. Toxic positivity means having a good vibes only approach to life and discarding any seemingly negative emotions. It denies people the authentic support that they actually need to cope with what they are facing. Everybody probably has has friends, and if you have a friend who's going through a hard time and that friend comes to you and he's really, truly your friend, and he's telling you about something he's going through, or you're telling him something you're going through, do you angrily command each other to be positive, or do you listen as a supportive friend? When something bad happens, such as losing your job, people might command you to stay positive or look on the bright side. While such comments are often meant to be sympathetic, they can shut down anything the other person might want to say about what they're experiencing. Maybe it's kind of like I was in the printing factory when you put away 10 years of your life in a place and you have a whole lot of people that you have known for over a decade that you're tied up with, and you have history together and everything, and all that's just gone. It's all gone. It's not just as simple as losing your job. It's more complicated than that. And yeah, you're minimizing right there, but it says, after experiencing some type of loss, people might say that everything happens for a reason. Yeah, nothing happens in God's world by mistake, according to the AA morons. While people still make such statements because they believe they're comforting you, this is also a way of avoiding the other person's pain altogether. Totally agree with that. I know you're in pain, but hey, it's all happening for a reason, right? I know that you're suffering right now, and I know that, you're in a lot of sadness and sorrow and everything, but I don't give a fuck about all that. It all happens for a reason. Get over it. Upon expressing disappointment or sadness, someone may respond that happiness is a choice. I really hate that one. This suggests that if someone is feeling negative emotions, it's their own fault for not choosing to be happy. You don't choose how you feel. You don't choose what's funny. You don't choose when something makes you cry. You don't choose when something moves you. You don't choose that any more than you can choose happiness in a terrible situation. There was a terrible earthquake in Japan not too long ago, like a 7.5. What if you were somebody that had multiple sclerosis and needed medications and needed other things and needed assistance being able to get around, and all of a sudden your home is destroyed, all of a sudden there is no pharmacy that you can go get your medication at, and maybe you don't have any family to help you around, and I just look at you and I say, happiness is a choice. Be grateful. That's what God wants to hear. By the way, the AA people act like this gratitude is something that AA higher power is going to sit up there and say, oh, my children, you're showing me the gratitude. Keep the gratitude. Feed my fucking ego with the gratitude. Wait a minute, you're not grateful. Jails, institutions, deaths, drunkenness for you. Out, Why would God give a shit how you feel? I mean, but such statements are often well-intentioned, and people just don't know what else to say and don't know how to be empathetic. That is actually, I'm talking mainly about toxic AA members here, but that is something that I've never said stupid shit like that, but there's times I don't really know what to say when somebody's telling me their problems, and I'm one of these people, if I get too nervous, I will laugh. So, but most of the time I don't do anything. I listen. If somebody's telling me about something that's really bothering them, I just listen to them. And now it says toxic positivity versus optimism. It's possible to be optimistic in the face of difficult experiences and challenges, but people going through trauma don't need to be told to stay positive and feel they're being judged for not maintaining a sunny outlook. And now it's going to get into the heart of the matter, which is why toxic positivity is harmful. Too much positivity is toxic because it can harm people who are going through real difficulties. Rather than being able to connect and share genuine human emotions and gain unconditional support, people who are faced with toxic positivity find their feelings dismissed, ignored, or outright invalidated, which, by the way, is the sum of AA. AA is all about feeling stuffing. They're always talking about, being 100% honest, or recovering if you have the capacity to be honest. They're always talking about, here's where that real stupid fucking saying, too, the rubber meets the road. Oh, a tire rolled across the highway. That's heavy shit, But it goes on to say it's shaming, for one thing. Receiving toxic positivity can lead to feelings of absolute shame. It tells people that the emotions they are feeling are unacceptable. When someone is suffering, they need to know that their emotions are valid and they can find relief and love in their friends and family. There have been situations where a couple of really, there's not very many people that are really close to me, but there's been a couple of people close to me that say, I feel stupid about this, but this is really tearing me up. I feel utterly heartbroken about this silly situation. And I can tell them when they tell me something like that, well, let me tell you this. There was this one time this thing happened, and I literally was in tears about it. And yeah, there's nothing wrong. You can't help how you feel. You can't help how you feel about things. It causes guilt. I think that one needs to be repeated 2 or 3 times. Being toxically positive towards people who are in pain induces feelings of guilt. He cites a source here, which, I could cite all my sources like an MLA, but I don't think that's necessary. It sends a message that if you aren't finding a way to feel positive, even in the face of tragedy, you're doing something wrong. And we all know how well AA loves to heap guilt on people. It loves that guilt. AA loves to heap more guilt on people more than hell. The Catholic Church that I grew up in knew how to do the guilt racket pretty well, but AA's got a market on it as well. It avoids authentic human emotion, the article says. Toxic positivity functions as an avoidance mechanism. When people engage in this type of behavior, it allows them to sidestep emotional situations that make them feel uncomfortable. Sometimes we're going to turn those ideas on ourselves, internalizing them. When we feel difficult emotions, we're going to discount them, we're going to dismiss them, we're going to deny them, and we're going to feel more guilt for having them. Sums up AA to a T. I wonder what this... So many people who write in these kinds of articles would never touch on AA. They'd be too scared of taking on the monolith. But it sums up what goes on in AA quite well, does it not? It prevents growth. Toxic positivity allows us to avoid feeling things that might be painful, but this denies us the ability to face challenging feelings that can ultimately lead to growth and deeper insight. The positive vibes only mantra can be particularly grating during times of intense personal distress. When people are coping with situations such as financial troubles, job loss, illness, loss of a loved one, being told they need to look on the bright side is downright cruel. Some even consider toxic positivity a form of gaslighting. AA knows all about gaslighting. This is because it creates a false narrative of reality, often causing you to question what you think and feel. Maybe I shouldn't feel sad about this. Maybe I shouldn't feel upset about this. Maybe I'm all wrong. Maybe the world is all fucked up. That's exactly what AA does is with their inventories and things like that. In some cases, and boy, they need to put this in highlighted brackets for Alcoholics Anonymous, toxic positivity can be abusive. An abusive person might use it to devalue, dismiss, and minimize another person's emotions and experiences. They might even use it as a way to downplay the seriousness of their own abusive actions. Oh, now that really touches on what goes on in AA. I've seen that happen on a lot of occasions in AA. Somebody will treat you like dirt. And then they'll turn around and say, well, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know what are you talking about? I mean, you're delusional. That's all you're making a mountain out of a fucking molehill. You're just being, you're an alcoholic. You're sick. You can't tell the truth from the false. No wonder, what are you upset about? That's exactly what the fuck they're doing to you. They're gaslighting you. They're abusing you like that. In fact, they can even downplay the abuse that they do to you. Like if they steal money off of you, they can say, well, you'd have blown it on alcohol anyway. I mean, you sick, fucking, pathetic loser alcoholic. How dare you come to me about things like that? I've actually seen shit like that happen, by the way. I'm citing real examples when I bring that up. And yeah, it's important to remember that not only just from Alcoholics Anonymous, but life in general. If you fall in love with someone and they're displaying these kinds of traits of being a narcissistic manipulator and abuser who knows how to play on your feelings of guilt and shame and remorse and all those things that normal human beings have, by the way, that doesn't make you a sick person, who might even bring up, well, you used to be a drunk and a drug addict, so, your feelings, they don't mean much. I never was a drunk and a drug addict like you and all that. This is fucking abuse. That's all it is. At their very best, toxic positivity statements come off as trite little platitudes that let a person off the hook for dealing with other people's feelings. Yeah, be grateful, fuck off, At their worst, these comments end up causing feelings of shame and blame in people who are often already dealing with an incredibly difficult situation. Sinus shit again. Signs of toxic positivity. Toxic positivity can be subtle. Learning how to recognize the signs can help you better identify this type of behavior. Signs that you're dealing with someone who's doing the toxic positivity. Someone brushing off your feelings rather than facing them. Feeling like you have to brush off your feelings rather than face them. Hiding your true feelings behind a bunch of feel-good quotes because you think that that's more sociably acceptable, when in fact you're feeling guilty when you're not, because you don't actually believe what you're talking about. Having someone minimize your feelings because it makes them uncomfortable or acts like that you're in the wrong for making them uncomfortable. Shaming other people, being shamed by other people when you don't have a positive attitude. It's equally important to know when someone else may be acting very toxic towards you and twisting around the situation to potentially hurt your well-being. Feeling guilty, making you feel guilty about the fact that you're sad, angry, or disappointed. Telling you that you need to hide or disguise how you feel. Telling you that you need to maybe be stoic or just get over painful emotions. This type of behavior may serve as a coping mechanism to help maybe reduce or avoid stress. But this might seem effective at first, but dismissing such emotions can make it actually far more difficult to actually cope effectively. And then it says how to avoid toxic positivity, which it just more or less goes on by saying that, you can acknowledge what you're feeling without having to feel guilty about it. You can acknowledge that you do have negative emotions. Negative emotions are a part of being human beings. And by the way, got to throw this scientific fact out there. There's a lot of animals that we know now feel these very same emotions. Believe it or not, there are certain species of animals that practice empathy. There are certain species of animals, highly intelligent, that actually have more complicated ideas and thoughts than than people actually give them credit for. There is something else I was going to say about that, but that would be another topic from another video. It's actually kind of a cool fact, but I'll leave it out for now. That you can't be realistic about what you feel. And it's okay to feel more than one thing at the same time. Noticing how you feel, those kinds of things. And then it just says a little bit more about, advice for self-worth. But I'm trending over into 30 minutes now, almost. And I think I pretty much summed it up. And like I said, this is just one article that I'll post in the video description, but there's tons about it. Just Google it, toxic positivity. Unfortunately, if you say toxic positivity in AA, you won't get anything good. You'll get a bunch of articles written by treatment centers that's telling you why you should be grateful. That's one other thing that tells me that's a downside of the AA institution having such a stranglehold over our society. Google anything addictive to do with addiction. I was stumbling over my words there a little bit. Google anything or use whatever search engine you want to use to look up something about addiction. The top 10 articles that pop up, they're all going to be articles from treatment centers. They're going to be blogs from AA things and stuff like that. Tell me that that's not a problem or a downside in a society that accepts AA as the go-to solution. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say for this particular video. There was something else I was going to add with this article, but I kind of lost my train of thought, damn it. Anyway, I'll see you guys next week, and I'll have subscriber comments ready to read because there's quite a number of good ones, but I don't have them in front of me right now. So later.